Now, Ernie Anastos, Carol Martin, Dr. Frank Field with weather, the first team. This is Channel 2 News at 5.
Good evening. It's a busy news day. I'm Dana Tyler, in tonight for Carol Martin.
And I'm Ernie Anastos, and here's what's happening today. It has been a day of nasty weather that just a short time ago got outright dangerous. A tornado hit Staten Island late today, knocking down trees and cutting off electricity. We
will have a report from there in just a moment, but first let's begin our team coverage with Frank Field, who's over at the weather map. Frank?
Well, thank you. The storm began as a water spout. It was reported about 4:10 p.m. It was sitting just off Staten Island, and then it moved right in, and as radar indicates, there was a lot of rain around at the time, and there was no warning. That water spout was out there, and several others did form, and once they did form, why, one of the water spouts moved right on shore. Officially, water spout is a tornado. The tornado striking land at 3:40 p.m., water spout just within a half hour hitting the Midland Beach area of Staten Island, causing all the damage you'll be seeing and hearing more about later. That particular storm dissipated, moving up into the atmosphere. A number of water spouts are still moving through the Raritan Bay area, so there is a warning for marine interest until 5:30, but the worst of it is over, and I'll have more on that later. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Frank. It is a chaotic scene on Staten Island right now, with trees and power lines down and power out in some areas.
Channel 2's Reggie Harris is on the scene right now with the latest on the aftermath of this dangerous weather. He joins us live on the telephone right now. Reggie, what can you tell us?
Ernie, Dana, I'm in a house at the corner of Clawson and Fremont Avenues in Grant City. That's mid-Staten Island, about the middle of the island. Now, the clock here says 3:31, the clock in the kitchen here. There is no power in this neighborhood. And on the next street, Greeley Avenue. What we have here is about 5 or 6 40-foot London plane sycamores down. Big trees, and they're uprooted. They have fallen partially on houses, but not much property damage. I mean, houses were not struck by the tornado, apparently. At least I have not seen that. One car is under these trees. Right now, there are emergency people on the scene, police and fire. The power is out. Con Ed working to restore that. We have not heard of any gas leaks, though. I did speak with a gentleman from Brooklyn Union Gas Company, and he said he was not aware of any gas out. First, they're trying to get the power restored. Now, with me is Fred CERULLO, the 1st District Councilman from Staten Island, and he knows a little bit more than I do. Mr. CERULLO. Hello. Ernie.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. How are you? We're out here in Grant City just trying to offer some assistance to the people who are now on their way to leaving their homes in most cases because of the seriousness of what's happening with the trees down, the power outages. I'm trying to make my office, which is only a few blocks away from this area, available to those people who may need some assistance, be able to phone. Some people do not have phone service. But it looks like if we're able to get some sort of emergency generators back into this area, that possibly without a gas leakage, people will be able to return to their homes if there isn't any damage. It seems that we have some people who are, of course, upset, trying to locate other members of their family who are not home. And currently, my office is attempting to get some emergency generators from Con Ed themselves, and also from some community-based organizations that may have them available, so that we can bring them into this area, because according to the fire department, we won't have electric in this area for a few days.
Yeah, and Mr. CERULLO, we've also just received word that Staten Island Hospital is now without power. We just received that information, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to talk with Pat Ricciardi,
Yes.
Who is with Con Ed, to find out what that situation is like and what's being done about these power outage situations. Can you just hold on for a minute? Pat, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Pat, can you tell us about this report about Staten Island Hospital without power?
No, I have not. This is the first I hear about Staten Island Hospital being without power. Though my understanding is that, as per state law, all New York State hospitals have backup generators to provide necessary emergency lighting. In other words, hallways, stairways, and operating rooms. Now, if and when a hospital goes out and they need additional assistance, we're always glad to provide emergency generators. If we can get them out there faster than we can restore power.
Can you tell us what you're doing now as far as Highland Boulevard, Jefferson Street is concerned?
We have a number of crews in the area that will be working First, simply to make the situation safe. When wires are down and they're live, they're very dangerous. So we first make the situation safe, and then they will begin what can sometimes be a lengthy process of restoring power. That means that they have to start clearing tree limbs. We have special contractors to come in to do that, but our people also do that. They have to, in some cases, replace or repair utility poles. It all depends on any given instance how bad the damage is. Now, in some cases, if the house itself is damaged, we may not be able to restore power until substantial repairs have been done to the house.
All right, Pat, thank you. Pat Ricciardi from Con Edison. We will have continuing coverage of the bad weather on Staten Island and any other information that we need to get to you throughout this newscast and tonight at 6 o'clock. The other big story today, it would be nice to say that all the talk about a possible war in the Middle East.
Damage, apparently, that Josie Nicholson was talking about. So, to recap, a tornado has touched down on Staten Island. There are no reports of injuries, but reports of some damage. The good news for now is that the tornado warning has been lifted. We do have crews in the area, and we'll bring you further details as it becomes available. Ross?
Greg, we have another really big story today, and it involves an unprecedented development in the Middle East.
Like a freight train, a rumbling of their windows. One woman told me she was taking her baby out of a crib, and her window cracked. And as she looked across the street, she saw this huge tree fall in almost a slow motion, like you would see an instant replay of a sporting event, come crumbling down to the ground. And people are very surprised by this. People in New York are not used to seeing tornadoes.
Of course, we had a gentleman on the phone with us a few minutes ago who is a Vietnam vet, he said, and said he drove through this tornado and was never so scared in his life, not even on the battlefields in Vietnam.
Well, I spoke to one fire department official who was on the scene as it was happening. He was heading to a neighborhood firehouse and called the first report in over the radios. And he said that everybody was in the street, everybody was nervous. But luckily out here, a lot of the people who live in this area are police, firemen, and emergency workers. So they're trained to stay calm. And luckily, there was no panic whatsoever. People are helping each other out. The officials have things well in control. And right now, it was a close call, but thank God nobody's seriously hurt.
All right, Harry, thanks for that report. Stay in touch.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
thank you, Harry. Right now we have a representative from Con Ed with us reporting to us from headquarters, Con Ed headquarters on Irving Place. Mr. Marty Gittins. Mr. Gittins, what can you tell us?
Well, Sue, fortunately, the news is that it's looking worse than the effect seems to be. We have reports of hundreds of trees down in the area, but so far only a moderate effect on customers. Just a few in the area are reporting problems. Wires are tangled. We do have a report of one primary wire down, but as I say, very little reports of customer outage.
Okay, Marty, we thank you very much for joining us, and if we can get back to you during the program, we will. And right now, I guess we will take a break with more news in just a few moments.
We'll be right back.
New York, this is Fox News at 7.
Good evening. I'm Jim Ryan, sitting in for Jack Cafferty. Rosanna Scotto joins me. Many people on Staten Island are considering themselves very lucky tonight. A few hours ago, a tornado touched down, uprooting trees, knocking out power. EMS says there were just a few slight injuries. Penny Crone is standing by with more on the story. Penny?
Jim, as you can hear behind me, you are hearing chainsaws. We are standing right where the tornado happened. Now, as you can see behind me, there are a lot of trees down. It's estimated there are dozens and dozens of trees down. Cars are wrecked, and as you can see, it's a mess. On top of that, more than 100 homes are without electricity. 40 customers have no gas. 100 customers are without phone service. You're looking at the tornado that touched down here in Staten Island at about 3:45 this afternoon. It is not the same as the tornadoes in the Midwest because it came off the water, and it's more like a water spout tornado. However, it is almost as dangerous. When it hit this 16-block area, witnesses say it was at least 15 feet wide. It literally uprooted trees like toothpicks. It picked up cars. For about 4 seconds, it was hell for everyone living in this Grant City neighborhood.
I was in my kitchen, and all of a sudden I started seeing things blow around. I saw my neighbor's umbrella go flying. I called to my husband, and with that, we heard a crash. Looked out the side window, saw a bunch of leaves. He ran to the front door and yelled for me to go down the basement with the baby.
Everything in the room started twisting around, so First thing, I thought we were being attacked. I was on the way out to move my car, and all of a sudden I seen the wind coming in. Everything was moving real quick, loud. And I ran back to the house. The next thing, all the trees started coming down.
Now, this is Fremont Avenue where we're standing, and this is the hardest hit block. Incidentally, we have some good news. There were no serious injuries. That has been reported by the police. As you can see, the power lines are down. The police department is here, the fire department. They're trying to cut down the trees, to move the trees, and to get service back and to get power back in service. Hopefully, it will be within the next 24 hours. We're live. We'll be back at 10. I'm Penny Crone reporting. Now back to the studio.
Thanks, Penny. Nick Gregory is here now with more on the rough weather. Nick?
And Rosanna, as we can see by where Penny was standing there, the weather has certainly improved markedly across that area in the last few hours. Now, when we talk about a tornado occurring in this area, many people, again, feel that they're rare occurrences, but you have to remember that now tornadoes can occur anywhere on the globe and at any time. And that may sound like a cop-out of a statement, but it is true because the ingredients involved with a tornado are such that they can occur at any time. Now, usually we refer to tornadoes as developing, let's say, in front of a cold front or when there's an air mass that is clashing with another air mass. For example, warm and humid air that would clash with colder air coming down from Canada. That's a very common occurrence of a tornado. Now, in this particular case today, we had a weather front lying along the east coast, and we were predicting showers and some thunderstorms with it, with maybe some heavy rain. But we did start to see, again, some bigger storms that started to develop, and these little water spots that formed in the Raritan Bay area and then came on shore. So there is some good news in that sense that it was really a water spout that went inland that became a tornado, and that's why we really didn't see much violent occurrences out of these tornadoes. In other words, for example, a tornado that happens in the Midwest is much more violent than just a water spout that comes offshore. But nonetheless, it did cause some damage, and you can see on our radar now that the weather has definitely improved. The storms that have caused the problems have moved on to the north. There still is another batch of rain to the southwest, and that's going to be coming through. It's not quite as violent, but it still could cause some flooding, and I'll be back to talk about that in our forecast for the weekend a little bit later on. Jim?
All right, Nick, thank you. A surprising courtroom development in Washington. The judge in the drug and perjury trial of Washington Mayor Marion...
A sudden tornado cuts a vicious path on Staten Island. Iraq's leader calls for an all-out holy war against Saudi Arabia and her American defenders. Decision and deadlock. A jury has the final say in the drug case against Washington Mayor Marion Barry.
Good evening, everyone. It has been a day and night of stunning developments.
We begin with an awesome show of nature, the tornado that hopscotched through a section of Staten Island. Home video cameras captured the funnel cloud that uprooted trees, tore down power lines, and forced homes to be evacuated, all in a matter of minutes. Our live team coverage begins with Channel 2's Reggie Harris on Staten Island. Reggie?
Michelle, no one here from the borough president down can remember the last time a tornado hit Staten Island. Well, one hit here mid-afternoon today. As you can see behind me, there's a cleanup in progress, may stretch overnight. And the people who saw and felt this tornado say they'll never forget the blustery visitor that touched down. New York's bravest doubled this evening as lumberjacks as they removed 5 large London plane sycamore trees from houses and cars in the path of a tornado that hopscotched across Staten Island.
I heard a lot of wind coming through, and it just started throwing everything around inside the house. So my first reaction, I thought we were being attacked or something with everything going on in the Middle East.
The branches were flying. The roof actually, the windows were all shaking, of course. And next thing we know, we ran back in the house. We heard a big thump, tree fell. We tried to get out the front, we couldn't get out. The wires, everything was down.
It hit about 3:31 this afternoon, a small but ferocious twister captured in this exclusive home video obtained by Channel 2 News. Witnesses say the base was only 20 to 30 feet across. It came out of the harbor and touched down in the Great Kills and Grant City sections of Staten Island. Al Summer, a fire department electrician, saw the tornado as he drove along Highland Boulevard.
And I was watching the leaves, the top of the trees, and the debris flying around. I got on the air with the Staten Island dispatches and tell them, I think I see a tornado right in front of me.
Fremont Avenue in the center of Staten Island was hardest hit, 5 trees down on 3 houses and 4 cars. But fortunately, only a few minor injuries. People hurt trying to get around the downed trees.
We have 4 civilians that was actually injured, and it was minor injuries like loose cuts and bruises, and we have 1 fire department personnel that was injured to the hand, and they all was RMA, treated and released on the scene.
Just yesterday, City Emergency Services, Fire, Police, and EMS had a citywide meeting discussing their response in case there's a hurricane this season. Well, today they got tested, and the response rating from this neighborhood is A+. However, there are some utilities still out in certain neighborhoods, and my colleague John Slattery picks up the story there.
Well, now 7.5 hours after this terrific tornado came through here, work crews are not yet finished. As you can see behind me, it won't be until tomorrow until this is all cleared up. Around 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, many work crews around the city thought their work was finished for the day, when in fact what was happening was the beginning of their second shift. The rumbling sound of the tornado has tonight given way to the sound of the chainsaw. Some 200 trees, roughly 2,000 limbs, are down in a 16-block area. In one block alone, work crews cut down to size 7 huge 36-inch wide sycamores.
The park department, emergency service, and our boys are doing a pretty good job cutting trees down. There's a lot of firewood around here.
Emergency crews have been here since minutes after the twister hits.
I said to Frank, yeah, we're in a tornado.
Joyce Bernies and Frank Guide, paramedics, were in Grant City when their ambulance began to shake. At about the same time, they got a call.
A trauma call for a man pinned in a car under a tree.
So you were in it yourself and having to respond to it at the same time?
That's correct.
And thank God we were fortunate enough that there were no victims. People were visibly shaken, but no one was killed, and no one was injured, really.
With only minor injuries reported, attention turned to restoring utilities. The downed trees knocked out phone service to around 70 customers, gas service to 50 homes, and electric power to around 70, and were to be restored when the mess is cleared away.
Trees are cleared, the poles restored, and the wires put back up.
This is the only block left that is fully without power, one block of Fremont Avenue. Officials expect to have the trees completely cleared out of here by 7 o'clock this morning, and also have the electric power to this one block remaining restored by them, at which time telephone crews will come in to finish running their lines. They hope to have telephone service to this small area that still doesn't have it fully restored by 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. The disaster, the cleanup, service restored, all within 24 hours. With Reggie Harris, this is John Slattery reporting live from Staten Island. That's
John, thank you very much. And the tornado hit virtually without warning this afternoon. To tell us about the erratic behavior of tornadoes, plus our continuing weather problems tonight, let's go to Frank Field live in the Channel 2 Weather Center. Frank, you've had a busy day.
We certainly have in the Weather Center. We've had also a record rain today. No one's mentioned that. We've had 5 inches in one day. That's more rain than we get in the entire month of August. And it all took place right along that line of clouds that you see on the satellite picture. To the west, bright sunshine in western Pennsylvania and New York. But it began, and Reggie used the term aptly. He said hop, skip, and jump. It began as a water spout. Now, a water spout is nothing more than a tornado over the water. As soon as it hits land, that streak extending down from the clouds into the water, as soon as it hits land, becomes a tornado, and it did. It skipped, it hopped, it went right up in the air, it touched down, destroyed several homes, went right back up in the air, simply disappeared, dropped down, and was off and gone. And on the radar right now, nothing much left of that, just a lot of rain around, which means that the flood watch continues specifically in Rockland and Westchester County, where some heavy rain is still likely. And as I said, I don't remember ever seeing this much rain in one day, and I never have. Back to you, and we'll have more later on.
All right, thank you, Frank. I want to remind you that Frank will have more on the Staten Island tornado, plus our continuing weather problems tonight later in this newscast. Michelle?
On now to our other major story tonight. Monday on Live at 5.
The following is a repeat telecast of the 11 o'clock edition of News 4 New York. From WNBC TV, this is News 4 New York at 11 with Chuck Scarborough, Sue Simmons, Al Roker's weather, and Len Berman with the latest sports.
Good evening. Chuck and Sue are off tonight. I'm David Diaz. A tornado slashes across Staten Island tonight, damaging houses, uprooting trees, and disrupting gas and power lines.
Tornadoes are rare occurrences in these parts, so the sight of the dark funnel cloud over Staten Island caused confusion and fear. Some amateur video shot from across New York Harbor and Brooklyn Heights shows the twister approaching. There were only a couple of minor injuries, a miraculous escape, said witnesses who saw collapsed roofs, demolished cars, and downed power lines. One firefighter said it looked like the Jolly Green Giant had just walked down the street crunching trees. News 4's Julian Phillips reports live from the scene at Midland Beach, Staten Island. Julian.
Okay, thank you very much, Pat. As you can see, Con Edison workers and other workers here are still clearing trees and down power lines here as they still continue to work late into the night. They will be working all night at this particular area. Now, directly behind me is a 2,300-volt cable which came crashing down as a result of this tornado. Now, before they turned this power off here, they said that this particular line was burning the grass over here. Now, despite the situation, most agree that the situation could have been a lot worse. The tornado touched down late this afternoon on Staten Island, uprooting trees like weeds plucked from a garden, downing power wires and rupturing gas lines affecting a 6-square-block area. It started as a water spout in lower New York Bay, which moved off the ocean due to tropical-like weather patterns normally seen in southern Florida. One eyewitness describes the impact on the area.
Myself, other off-duty firemen and policemen around the area that live in the area, we ran up and down blocks trying to find out who was hurt, if anyone was hurt, or any assistance we can give them. And at that point, there was gas leaking all over the place, and wires were down all over the place.
Police, fire, and emergency service units responded quickly to the scene, cutting trees from power lines and on houses. One resident just came home 10 minutes before the tornado struck.
At first, I didn't know what it was. I was in a separate room from my wife and the baby. And the wind just started getting heavier and heavier. And then everything in the room just started falling off the walls.
And local officials praised the quick response by service workers to the emergency.
There's been wonderful coordination here. We just had a meeting yesterday on hurricanes and what would happen in case of hurricanes. Little did we expect within 24 hours that we'd be hit with a tornado.
Some gas lines are still shut down, and Con Edison workers shut off power lines in the area for fear of danger to local residents. 2 people were treated for hysteria due to the condition of their houses. Okay, now we got a new report in that there are 4 injuries now. 3 of those residents and 1 firefighter. They're all considered minor. They were all treated and released. Now, officials say here that electricity should be restored by early morning, as well as gas lines, but they're still checking the ruptures to houses here to make sure there are no more leaks. Reporting live from Staten Island, I'm Julian Phillips. Back to you in the studio.
Heavy rain is part of the bad weather pattern all over our area. It's causing flooding and closing roads and making it tough, even dangerous, for drivers who are heading out for the weekend. Al has the latest on all the weather problems from our News 4 Weather Center. Al? Mike, I don't hear him. How come I don't hear him?
He's not on.
Yeah, he says so.
In the beginning.
Chester, you can see right.
That's you, David.
There's definitely an audio problem.
Well, we definitely have an audio problem from Al. And we have Gloria Rojas right now, we believe, in Westchester with some of the problems caused by the weather there now. Gloria?
Forget calling it Westchester. It's Wetchester. And it's been stop and go with this rain all day long. And that's the way the traffic has also been, more stop than go. As a matter of fact, coming up the FDR Drive, it took an hour between the Brooklyn Bridge and the Williamsburg Bridge, and that's less than a couple of miles. Right now, we will be looking at the West Side Highway. There was flooding throughout New York City's highways, and that's the West Side Highway right there. The FDR was even worse with something that should be called lake delay, because that's what it looked like in the middle of the road, a huge lake that people had to go through on the far side, and it stopped everything. However, once you got out of that, you were able to go like an SST at least 30 miles an hour. Speed, of course, is relative. And people going home to their relatives here in Westchester are going to find new difficulties. Right now with me is Sergeant Charles Wright. And why are you detouring people here off the Sawmill River Parkway?
Well, Gloria, the parkway is flooded due to the overflow on the Sawmill River. It's closed. Parkway is closed here in Yonkers.
You're a handsome guy. Face the camera.
We're closed here on Palmer Road, north and southbound.
Is it just the Sawmill that has a problem?
Yes, it is.
The Bronx River Parkway has...
None of the other parkways are experiencing any flooding at this time.
Is this flooding just today's rain, or has it been building?
Well, it's been a buildup of the past rain we've been experiencing in the past couple of days. But tonight's rain really pushed us over the limit.
Sergeant Rice and I will continue our discussion, wondering how we drew this wonderful assignment. Now back to Al in the News 4 Center, in the News 4 Weather Center.
I understand how tough it is out there, Gloria. And in fact, you're not going to get any relief. Let's take a look right now at our exclusive live color radar, and you'll see that there are showers out there, very heavy thunderstorms over Westchester. Also now another band moving into New Jersey just to the north of Trenton. So we do have right now a flash flood warning in effect till 1:45 for Putnam County, till 1 a.m. for Rockland and Westchester County, and flood watches for the entire tri-state region with the exception of Long Island. We'll have more details on this and a little more when we come back a little later on News 4. Pat?
Okay, Al, thank you. Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein has become more isolated as he pursues his violent ambitions in the Persian Gulf. Today, the majority of Arab League nations ignored his call for a holy war against his enemies.
Living Color, Motley Crue.